I want to make it clear today that my administration will focus on ending the absolutely horrific practice of human trafficking.
Cameras got a glimpse inside that tunnel today, which stretches more than 1,700 feet. As part of the investigation, we've learned more than 1,700 pounds of cocaine was also seized, along with meth and heroin.
4:52 a.m. An abandoned hospital in Texas was discovered to be something else entirely. Beneath its concrete floors ran a smuggling tunnel that had operated for years without drawing attention. The hospital's director concealed her true identity, exploiting public trust to keep the operation invisible. 250 children's hearts were trafficked overseas. More than 270 kilograms of heroin and fentanyl were quietly distributed across the United States. No sirens, no warnings, no headlines. Do you want to know the full truth? Hit like now. In this video, I will reveal everything. Not speculation, not rumors. I witnessed firsthand the realities of human trafficking and child exploitation, and how a system designed to protect life was turned into a shield for crime. If you want to follow investigations like this and understand how these networks really operate, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. What you're about to see will change how you look at the places you were taught to trust. January 4th, 2026. Rio Grande Valley was still asleep when the first warning appeared. Not a call, not a complaint, a number. City records listed Rio Grande Regional Hospital as abandoned for over a decade. 0 patients, 0 staff, 0 inspections. Yet, electrical logs showed nightly spikes between 12:40 and 3:50 a.m., peaking nearly 410% above baseline. Enough power to sustain operating room lighting, climate control, and industrial-grade refrigeration simultaneously. Fuel data deepened the contradiction. Backup generators consumed an estimated 2,700 gallons of diesel per month for a building that was supposed to be dark. Motion sensors registered brief activity bursts, never longer than 7 minutes, always after midnight. Delivery trucks entered through a rear access road twice a week, engines running, stops timed with precision. Residents noticed the details officials ignored. A steady, mechanical hum. Lights bleeding through boarded windows. A sharp disinfectant odor drifting across an empty lot. Permits renewed automatically. Inspections signed without entry. Nothing here looked like an emergency. That was the problem. Buildings don't stay this active by accident, and silence this consistent is rarely natural. On paper, there was nothing to investigate. The name at the center of Rio Grande Regional Hospital was familiar, respected, and publicly untouchable. Amina Farah Hassan had spent years building a reputation that discouraged questions. She appeared at humanitarian conferences, approved medical outreach programs, and signed off on initiatives credited with thousands of pediatric consultations. Donor reports praised efficiency. Grant audits returned clean. To the outside world, the hospital wasn't abandoned, it had simply completed its mission. But numbers began to disagree with the story. Between 2022 and 2025, procurement records showed medical supply orders rising by nearly 290%, despite the hospital reporting 0 active wards. Refrigeration units listed for long-term preservation trials exceeded the capacity of a full children's hospital. Pharmaceutical invoices arrived monthly, consistent, precise, and always paid within hours. Inspection logs told a quieter lie. Safety reviews marked completed in under 6 minutes. Risk assessments copied word for word across multiple years. No signatures changed. No doors were opened. Trust did the work that force never had to. Ask yourself this: how long would you question a system that looks perfect on paper? Because once investigators stopped asking why the hospital was closed, they began asking something far more dangerous. What was it being kept ready for? The answer wasn't upstairs, and it wasn't meant to stay hidden much longer. At 4:18 a.m., federal units sealed the perimeter around Rio Grande Regional Hospital. No sirens, no lights. Every move followed a timeline that had been rehearsed for weeks, because once the entry began, there would be no room for uncertainty. From the outside, the building matched its official status. Boarded windows, peeling paint, empty corridors filled with dust and rusted equipment, a hospital abandoned in appearance and supposedly irrelevant. That version of the story lasted exactly 2 minutes. Thermal scans flagged a heat signature behind a service elevator listed as inactive since 2014. Structural analysis showed concrete reinforcement that did not exist in original construction plans. When agents breached the wall, they uncovered a concealed access point leading underground. The tunnel below was not improvised. It was engineered. Fresh wiring ran along the walls. Ventilation systems operated continuously. Floor markings appeared at measured intervals designed for movement, not storage. Power logs later confirmed the underground level alone consumed electricity equal to a fully operational 40 to 50 bed surgical wing, night after night. Drainage lines connected to a filtration system capable of handling over 1,300 liters of biological waste daily, indicating sustained activity, not short-term use. At the tunnel's end, agents located 3 secured rooms. The first contained vacuum-sealed narcotics cataloged and dated. The second held sterilized medical equipment sized exclusively for pediatric use, arranged with clinical order. The third room was empty, but still warm, suggesting it had been cleared shortly before entry. As teams advanced, multiple individuals attempted to escape through the tunnel carrying encrypted phones, storage devices, and bundled cash. They were intercepted before reaching the exit. No alarms were triggered. The operation above ground remained unnoticed. At 4:47 a.m., investigators accessed a concealed server array. The data shifted the case immediately. This was not a hidden clinic. It was a logistics node. Transfer schedules extended weeks into the future. Routing codes pointed away from the hospital. The structure beneath the building was designed to move people and materials efficiently, repeatedly, and without attracting attention. The conclusion was unavoidable. The hospital was never the destination. It was the entry point. And according to the data now in federal hands, the next transfer was already in motion. By 5:02 a.m., the focus shifted away from the hospital. What mattered now was time. Data pulled from the concealed servers mapped a movement cycle already underway. Transfer windows were narrow, measured in minutes, not hours. Routing codes pointed south and east, away from the facility, converging on infrastructure designed to swallow volume without memory. The hospital had fed the system. The system was about to move. Analysts worked in parallel, reconstructing the flow in real time. Each entry on the server aligned with a physical event, a delivery, a power surge, a vehicle departure. Patterns emerged with unnerving precision. Every cycle repeated on a 72-hour rhythm. Every shipment staggered to avoid detection thresholds. Redundancy was built in. Failure at one node did not stop the network. It redirected it. Shipping records added weight to the alarm. 3 refrigerated containers were scheduled for departure before dawn, each registered under newly formed logistics firms less than 60 days old. No operational history. No employees. Perfect paperwork. Thermal estimates suggested abnormal internal density inconsistent with standard cold cargo. The destination was clear: Texas seaport. The scale changed the tone of the operation. The port processed tens of thousands of containers daily. Once cargo entered that flow, retrieval became statistically improbable. Investigators calculated that after clearance, the probability of interception dropped below 4% within the first hour. At 5:29 a.m., Federal Command authorized immediate interdiction. Teams redeployed from 4 directions while port operations continued uninterrupted. Cranes moved, trucks queued. Everything looked routine. That was the cover. Infrared scans confirmed heat signatures inside one container and chemical profiles inconsistent with declared contents in the others. There would be no warning shots, no delays. Every second mattered because the system was already compensating, already adjusting. This phase was no longer about uncovering what had happened beneath the hospital. It was about preventing what was about to disappear. By the time the first unit reached the outer perimeter, engines were already turning. The network had anticipated pressure. What it had not anticipated was how close it had come to running out of time. The Texas seaport never slowed. At 5:41 a.m., cranes continued their rotation, engines idled in line, and refrigerated containers rolled forward as if nothing were wrong. That normalcy was the last layer of protection the network relied on. Federal units moved in quietly, sealing access lanes without disrupting port flow. To anyone watching from above, it looked like routine congestion. On the ground, teams were already counting seconds. Once a container cleared the final checkpoint, recovery odds dropped to near zero. Thermal scans confirmed the first anomaly. One container registered sustained internal heat inconsistent with frozen cargo. The second showed chemical density patterns far exceeding declared limits. The third was colder than expected, its refrigeration cycling far more frequently than standard preservation requires. At 5:52 a.m., the order was given. 2 containers were isolated within 90 seconds. The third accelerated toward a secondary exit, its driver attempting to merge into outbound traffic. A federal vehicle cut across its path, forcing the truck to brake hard. The container stopped less than 70 feet from open water. Inside the secured units, investigators found tightly packed narcotics sealed for overseas transport, totaling over 2 metric tons combined. The third container told a different story. Insulated medical crates filled the interior, each tagged with pediatric identifiers that matched hospital server records recovered less than an hour earlier. Emergency teams moved in immediately. Time was critical. Internal temperatures had been regulated to sustain transit, not delay. Records showed 27 prepared transfer units, far more than analysts had predicted. By 6:08 a.m., the port sector was fully secured. Multiple individuals connected to the shipment were detained. No alarms sounded. Port operations resumed within minutes, the interruption barely visible from a distance. But the damage to the network was irreversible. Had those containers cleared the port, there would have been no recovery, no reconstruction, no second chance. The trail would have ended at the waterline, scattered across jurisdictions designed never to meet. Standing between stacked steel and tire marks still warm on the concrete, investigators understood what had been stopped. Not a shipment, an erasure. And with the cargo secured, attention shifted again, away from the port and toward the system that had financed every step of the operation. Once the containers were secured, the investigation changed shape. The tunnels, the port, the shipments, those were only the visible mechanics. What remained was quieter, slower, and far more resilient. Within hours, forensic analysts began tracing the financial pathways tied to Rio Grande Regional Hospital. What surfaced was not a single account or a careless transfer, but a lattice designed to look ordinary. Over 38 shell entities appeared across 4 jurisdictions, each registered legally, each inactive on paper, each perfectly timed to receive and forward funds in amounts just below automatic reporting thresholds. In less than 7 years, more than $210 million moved through this structure. The money arrived disguised as humanitarian grants, equipment upgrades, and public health partnerships. Individually, the transactions raised no alarms. Together, they formed a bloodstream. Procurement records told the same story. Surgical equipment invoiced at 3 to 4 times market value. Refrigeration units billed as experimental storage systems, routed instead to private logistics depots. Even routine maintenance contracts showed inflation patterns that aligned precisely with transfer schedules recovered from the tunnel servers. Between 2021 and 2025, the hospital officially reported 0 pediatric procedures. Yet, pharmaceutical orders exceeded those of fully operational children's facilities by over 300%. The discrepancy had been flagged more than once. Each time, it was closed without comment. The reason became clear. Audit trails revealed recurring consulting fees paid to inspectors who never entered the building. Port compliance approvals signed in under 5 minutes. Oversight reduced to signatures and silence. No one needed to stand in the tunnel. Their role was simply to look away. Arrests followed quickly, but the shock came afterward. The system had not relied on secrecy. It relied on comfort, on the assumption that institutions labeled medical, charitable, or humanitarian did not require close attention. By the time the hospital was sealed and the tunnel filled, the damage was already counted in years, not hours. What this case exposed was not a hidden criminal operation hiding beneath a city. It was something far more unsettling. A structure built inside trust itself and sustained by the belief that no one would ever question it. This case did not end when the tunnel was sealed or the containers were stopped. It ended when a simple truth became impossible to ignore. Systems fail most when no one questions them. What happened beneath that hospital was not hidden by darkness, but protected by routine, paperwork, and trust. And that is why it lasted. Now it's your turn. Do you think cases like this are rare or just rarely uncovered? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you believe these stories matter, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because the next investigation may already be happening in plain sight.